The primary defendant in this alleged voter fraud case was called to the stand by the plaintiff's attorney, Ray Acton. Acton questioned Bill Evans about his part in the 1978 Coosa County Sheriff's race, which is being contested by the former sheriff, Veston Peters. On the stand, Evans categorically denied ever having solicited, distributed, or in any way taken part in the use of absentee ballot applications or the casting of absentee ballots. Evans also denied ever having offered anyone money or giving anyone money in return for votes for him for the sheriff's race. Another of the defendants in this case, Coosa and Clay County District Judge Robert Teal, Jr., took the stand at Acton's call. Teal offered testimony which conflicted with some offered yesterday by two Coosa County women who claimed they were offered lower fines on a number of state trooper citations in return for votes for Evans. Teal denied ever having taken part in the incident, much less knowing about it. He also denied having been at the Coosa County Courthouse on the date that the incident allegedly occurred. Acton called another witness to the stand, Winfred Burton, who testified that he was offered a deal. Burton claims that probate judge Jasper Fielding said that he would offer him this deal. If you will line up with me, I'll raise you $1,000. Otherwise, Coosa County will become too small for you and me both to live in. Peters is contending that all of the defendants gathered enough illegal absentee ballots to change the outcome of the race, to cause Peters to lose to Evans. Evans' margin of victory was some 250 votes. The case will continue next week. At the federal courthouse, Chris Grimshaw, WSFA TV News.
Our concern now is that the new bill does not prevent fragmentation. Some of the major concerns of ours was Head Start program being moved under education and the food service program being under education. This bill does not do that. So we think fragmentation is still in the new legislation. We are concerned about it. We are concerned also that we'd like to support the measure if we can. The late Senator Allen was a co-sponsor of this bill and very much committed to putting education where it ought to be, given more spotlight and given more attention at the national level. So we would like to sponsor the bill and support the bill. At the same time, we do have concerns about the present bill, and we're withholding any statements of support at this time.
What do you think these fragmentation problems would cause with the state of Alabama in particular?
Well, we think that things dealing with education, certainly the food service program, the nutrition program is vital to the school program. And we feel that that should be under education. Just like we think that the Head Start programs throughout the nation, that's education, should be under education. So we're going to do what we can to see that these parts are put back in the legislation.
The man who once stood up for Alabama is now taking a stand for the handicapped. As Director of Rehabilitation Resources at the University of Alabama in Birmingham, Governor George Wallace now coordinates funds for rehabilitative programs. According to Wallace, Alabama's rehabilitative services have become a role model for other states, and his involvement in helping the handicapped is what prompted today's visit. Miss Wheelchair America and Miss Wheelchair Alabama were both greeted and presented gifts by the former governor, and afterwards they talked about their roles as ambassadors of goodwill.
We've been speaking to able-bodied groups, handicapped groups, governors and mayors, and trying to emphasize a lot of the areas that are in need of emphasis at this time.
How has your reception been?
Absolutely superb. We've been hitting all of the southern states, and of course Alabama has been just fantastic to us. They really have been.
Oh, I've got to travel across the state quite a bit, meet a lot of really good people. Been speaking out to people trying to help remove architectural and attitudinal barriers, hoping it'll make life more simple, you know, so that everybody can get into the places they want to and be treated equal. That's really the main thrust of the Miss Wheelchair program.
The governor's interest in rehabilitation emanates from his 1972 assassination attempt and the time he spent in rehabilitation hospitals. Janet May, WSFA TV News.
I find fault with Judge Phelps' conclusion there. I say he is biased and he is prejudiced, as we charged in the affidavit of prejudice, a sworn statement that pointed out that Judge Phelps had been quoted in the newspaper some time ago as being in favor of the judicial article, and he hopes that the political criticism of it would die down after the November election. Also, we pointed out that Judge Phelps owes his job to Howell Heflin, one of the defendants in this case, that Heflin originally was responsible for Phelps being appointed as a judge here in Montgomery County, in this area. And furthermore, that Howell Heflin's $30,000 pension, which we charged was unconstitutional and void in violation of the Alabama Constitution because he paid nothing into it, was an issue here, and that his friendship with Heflin should be a thing that would act against his being fair and impartial about it. Furthermore, we pointed out that Judge Phelps' own salary and his pension benefits, which he may want to enjoy later on, was being attacked in this suit. And hence, in violation of the rule that no man can be a judge in his own party, we say that Judge Phelps acted improperly, and he deprived us as the plaintiffs an opportunity for any later jury trial. He deprived the citizens an opportunity for anybody to speak in their behalf with respect to these big pensions and the judges setting their own salaries through the Judicial Compensation Commission here, without benefit of the legislature acting positively or without any representatives of the people speaking to hold down the judges' salaries.
How it started?
Not at this point. We hadn't even been inside, but I do know they did a lot of wire burning and this sort of stuff in this building, and I'm not sure. We're going to go in shortly as soon as we get some of the smoke out and take a close look at it.
Is there any fire still going up in the roof?
Oh yeah, we got fires all over, small ones, but it was hard to get in there to it, where the fire was.
Thank you.
Okay.
The Anglican Catholic Church is made up mostly of former members of the Episcopalian Church who left their parishes, claiming the church had become too liberal. Many believe the Episcopal Church has become more concerned with accommodating modern lifestyles and moral values than with the orthodox faiths of Christianity. Bishop Peter Watterson says that the Episcopal Church has abused its traditional doctrines for a long time, but he says it was their decision to ordain women priests that caused the final split. Bishop Watterson is also concerned that the issues of homosexuality and abortion will become accepted by the Episcopal Church. He thinks many of their members will become disillusioned with the church. The bishop says the Anglican Catholic Church is growing across the country by leaps and bounds. So far, 40 Anglican parishes have been established in the bishop's southeastern diocese since the church was formed 2 years ago. Glenda Webb, WSFA TV News.
they're as strong as we are probably inside. They lack the depth we have in our inside game, and I think our guards, our 4 guards, are better than the guards they're going to put on the floor as far as quickness, agility, and outside shooting. But they're at their home court now, and we've won 2 games in a row. We may be relaxing. I hope we don't do that. But it'll be a good basketball game. We have much more depth, and I think our guards are quicker. We don't have anybody that has the capabilities of Kadich as far as strength and size inside, but we have someone like Dwayne Scales outside who can shoot well, and if Al Green is playing well, I think we'll do okay tonight.
You all made a lot to do with Kadich down in Baton Rouge, didn't you? The Incredible Hulk and all that stuff.
I think his body impressed a lot of our fans. Our attendance is up around 14,500 a game, and usually we've been drawing 8 or 9, and the extra 4,000 or 5,000 people that came in there, he made a very good impression on them, because he's really built like the Incredible Hulk, and he plays very hard and has good speed and good quickness, and he's impressive physically.
Your job is recruiting. How have you been able to, how does it look with all that talent on the team and these high school kids knowing they've got to face all that talent if they come into play?
Well, your good teams, year in, year out, have adequate depth on the bench. The UCLA's and Notre Dame's, and if you're going to compete nationally, you have to have good depth. And I think this is one of the reasons we're winning late in the year right now, because our depth has come through. We beat Florida there, and we fouled out 4 starters and did not have them for the last 9 minutes of the game, yet we won there. And we have a very excellent player in Baton Rouge who's a high school senior. I think he's going to commit to us, and we're after 3 big kids. I think we'll have a good recruiting year again next year, but to answer your question, most high school kids who are worth their salt want to play as freshmen. And with our talent coming back, we may not be able to get some of the players we think we have a shot at right now, but I'm hopeful that the one in Baton Rouge will definitely commit and stay with us.
Several topics were covered extensively by questions from members of the media. The state's prison situation seemed to be talked about the most. Governor James says he was looking at the 3 proposed sites for new prisons, mentioning that Jefferson County contributes many prisoners to the state system, yet there is no prison located near there. He also said that he would spend whatever is necessary to hire a prison manager with a proven record to run the prison system. When questioned about the Board of Corrections, James said that he would be in favor of the legislature's Sunset Committee recommending the termination of that board. He said he would like to appoint new members to whatever agency is determined to take the place of the Board of Corrections. Many of the questions were about the proposed Constitution. Governor James said that several changes had been made in the draft already. One, he said, was to place the Secretary of State, State Treasurer, State Auditor, Commissioner of Agriculture, and the county sheriffs back in the document as constitutional officers. He said another provision put back into the proposed Constitution was a statement that the waterways of the state should forever remain free.
We go into, as you know, special session starts Thursday night, and they're going to have a week, 10 days of public hearings. And then after that, the legislature will get down to work on it. And I would think that, and I would suspect this, just as a matter of their being able to look at it, they'll have to take it article by one, I would think. And they'll have to look at this article and deliberate, debate, and when they all come to agreement on it, say, okay, that was all right, we'll put it in the shelf. And go on through, and then toward the end, some resolution of act time all together and say, all right, now this is a whole package and we've agreed on it and we're going to put it before the public.
The governor also said that he will ask the legislature to provide civilian security officers for himself, Lieutenant Governor George McMillan, and Attorney General Charles Graddock, instead of using state troopers as in the past. He said the request will be sent to the legislature at the special session he has called for this Thursday. The main topic of that special session is to write a new state constitution. Dennis Latham, WSFA TV News at the Capitol.
serving mostly low-income customers, Western Meats did $175,000 in food stamp business in 1977. The Agriculture Department charges a Western Meat Market clerk exchanged cash for food stamps at the store, violating federal law in 1976. A federal indictment was brought against him and later dropped because of a lack of evidence. The government suspended for 1 year the store's food stamp eligibility for the alleged violations. That was later reduced to 2 months. Now, Western Meats is suing the Federal Agriculture Department, saying the suspension is unwarranted. Charles Price is the attorney for Western Meats.
Basically, what we're asking is that the decision of the hearing officer or reviewing officer from the Department of Agriculture be set aside as being unreasonable, capricious, and arbitrarily made against Western Meat Company based on the facts that support his decision.
Okay, the company is accused of violating the Food Stamp Act.
Well, basically, what involved here is that back in '77, when the present owner of Western Meat Company was operating a partnership with another businessman who is still in business, one of the employees was accused of exchanging food stamps for money or money for food stamps. Later, and he was indicted by the federal court. Later, that indictment was dismissed. Now, the partnership has since been dissolved. One of the other partners, of course, is in business. No action has been taken against him. However, the employee continued to work for both partners up until the partnership was dissolved. He continues now to work for the partner who is now the present owner of Western Meat. So what the Department of Agriculture has done has taken that action that was never proven because the indictment was subsequently dismissed and say this was action that, questionable action which should not allow the present owner of Western Meat Company to participate in the food stamp program. And I think that's just arbitrary and capricious and unreasonable, especially in light of the fact that no action has been taken against the other partner who is presently doing business.
Court documents show that in 1972, clerks at Western Meats sold customers alcoholic beverages and a freezer for food stamps. Documents also show the store was suspended from the federal stamp program for 6 months in 1972 for those violations. Federal District Court Judge Robert Varner is expected to hold hearings in the Western Meat case within the next 60 days. This is Norman Lumpkin, WSFA TV News reporting.
Traffic on the Southern Bypass is so congested at times that people are beginning to take the long way home. However, if the State Highway Department has its way, things are going to be different.
The proposed the traffic signal system that's presently being installed along the South Bypass and a portion of the Eastern Bypass will extend from Mobile Highway to Vaughn Road, with one intersection being slightly off of the bypass on Troy Highway. The signal system will consist of the latest microprocessor technology that's available in the market today and will basically replace the intersection traffic control equipment that we presently have and replace it with computerized microprocessor type of technology. What basically it will amount to is that the signals that are presently on the bypass plus one additional one at Carmichael Drive will be coordinated by a hardwire interconnect to a master controller, microprocessor controller, which will provide for a progressive signal system. We don't have that at the present time.
Now, does all this mean that there will be a constant flow of traffic on the Southern Bypass bypass instead of the, say, the stop and go that we're accustomed to now?
Well, it's designed to improve the stop and go that we see now. A study was done some time ago which indicated a signal system of this type should result in reduced congestion, reduced accidents, and reduction in starts and stops for the motorist, and in effect also a savings in gasoline consumption.
The system won't be in operation for another 3 months or so, and if everything flows smoothly, so will the traffic. From the Southern Bypass, Janet May, WSFA TV News.
Yes, we found out that very young children, as young as 3 years old, are being treated with amphetamine-type drugs to control behavior. And these are psychiatric drugs, which are used on adults as well. When we found out about that, we got involved in it, and we did research it, and we put out a booklet called How to Handle the Hyperactive Child.
Well, are there alternatives to treating the hyperactive child besides the use of drugs?
Very definitely. The booklet is mainly for parents and teachers to let them know that the actual problems with these children can lie in the area of nutrition or education. And the booklet gives them the idea of different techniques, different diets that they can try. If they do not want to use the drugs simply handle the symptom. It simply controls the behavior. It does not get to the root of the problem. The alternative treatments do.
Now, say, for instance, when a child is diagnosed as hyperactive, is he immediately prescribed drugs for this?
Many times he usually is. He's usually told to go to a psychiatrist or to a local mental health center, and that is usually what he is given. It is becoming more and more popular to look at the child's diet, see how much sugar he's intaking, or if it could be artificial flavors and colors that are affecting his behavior. And that is becoming much more popular now, which we're very glad to see.
State School Superintendent Dr. Wayne Teague says Governor Fob James did what he had to when he announced a 6% proration of the state Special Education Trust Fund. Teague said the situation was much worse than earlier anticipated and now could mean as much as a 30% cutback in some educational areas. The question of how leftover money would be handled was brought up, wondering whether line item appropriations could be loosened enough so that each local school board could maneuver the cutbacks into more acceptable places. Governor James says consideration to such a thought has been given.
In going 6% as the law requires a governor to do, I know from looking at that budget there are some areas it could give more, relatively speaking, than others. But by law, I can't do that. The only thing I can do is say we run out of money, it's a 6% cut across the board, and that basically is what we have done. We are going to look very closely at that. And if it looks like it may make sense, particularly in getting money to some of these school boards, there is a chance that we could put it on the call of the special session. It would take an act of the legislature. Before I would be willing to get into that, we'd have to look at the numbers and know really how much money we're talking about and if it would make sense.
The executive director of the Alabama Association of School Boards, Randy Quinn, pointed out that Alabama is only one of a few states where local level budgeting is done at the legislative level. James also took the opportunity to reiterate his push for the testing of every pupil in Alabama this year, hoping to secure information that would aid in developing methods to combat illiteracy.
I'm not asking anybody to design a new rocket ship or a new drug. I'm saying go back and come down on hard stuff that you know will work in those elementary grades. Tell me what it is that will work, that you can prove to me it's worked. And you know from your own experience that thousands of teachers and educators can agree on this is fundamental, this is basic, this is 2 plus 2. If you do it hard and you do it right every day, it'll work.
James said he would even be willing to dig several $100,000 out of the governor's office or out of special funds to finance this testing program. In other business, the board voted to create a legislative committee to meet in a special session with the state board to gain input for this week's Legislative Constitutional Committee, which meets Thursday. In addition, the board received a nomination to fill the presidency of the Gadsden State Junior College.
And it's with pleasure I recommend to you Dr. Arthur Dennis to be president of Gadsden State Junior College effective February 15th.
Chris Grimshaw, WSFA TV News.
More than happy to accept it. And it's a real legitimate check.
For the record, it's made out to the Lurleen B. Wallace Junior College, and it has a 5, and then it's got 5 zeros after the 5. And that's $500,000. Thank you on behalf of the citizens of Alabama.
I'm here at Maxwell Air Force Base today, winding up a military tour where we reviewed Fort Rucker and the depot in Anniston, Fort McClellan, and finally Maxwell. And this is to emphasize the importance of the military installations to the economy in Alabama and to indicate to these folks that Donald Stewart is interested in these facilities and will do what he can at the national level to stress that, the importance to Alabama. And I'm hopeful we'll see some turnaround in the situation here at Maxwell. The people here are very enthusiastic about their plans that they plan to present to Congress about the renovation of certain buildings, the improvement of certain programs, and I certainly plan to work with General Furlong and the rest of them in doing that.
Day of February 1939. This trooper, Barbara Mason, Trooper Arthur Smith. Thank you, Charlie. Yes, sir. Now, along with the certificates, each one.
From what we've been told by a source close to the investigation, Stabler has been interviewed twice by state investigators, and both times we are told Stabler is alleged to have said he had no knowledge of the incident. It's also reported that at least 20 persons have been questioned in connection with the probe, and already 100 pages of information received from those interviews by state investigators have been compiled and are now being reviewed. At this point, law enforcement officials say they have only circumstantial evidence in the case. We are told that there were no fingerprints on a magnetic key case recovered by Gulf Shores police on the fender of the sports writer's car. It was found to contain a quantity of illegal cocaine. At this point, the probe is hampered by the lack of identifying marks on the key case or fingerprints on that case. One state official having knowledge of the Stabler affair told us, at this point, unless one of the people involved in the setup of sports writer Bob Padecki admits to the alleged plot, no arrests are in sight, at least for the near future. The investigation continues, and 2 state investigators are assigned to follow all leads in the case. This is Norman Lumpkin, WSFA TV News at the State Department of Public Safety.
conform to that, I vote against it along with some other members. The proposal of this sort
would be looking right into the back of the wire house. And most naturally, I see the
around this, and I've seen it many times.
East side of Oak Street, corner south of Rock. Here on Resolution 4679, reaching the south corner of Barnes and Holmby Street. I go by there, anywhere 2 to 3 times a day. And it says at night.
I move that the adopted resolution.
Have a motion, second, adopt resolution.